The morning began like any other episode of Good Morning America: bright lights, cheerful music, and a studio buzzing with energy. The guest list was impressive, but all eyes were on the headliner, Samuel L. Jackson. The Hollywood icon was there to promote his latest film, a gripping psychological action thriller that had already begun to generate Oscar whispers. Jackson, known for his magnetic presence both on and off screen, was calm, collected, and sharply dressed in a dark gray suit, his signature beret perched confidently atop his head. Michael Strahan, the co-host known for his easy charisma and playful interviewing style, seemed genuinely excited to welcome him. "Ladies and gentlemen," Strahan boomed as the crowd cheered, "please welcome the legendary Samuel L. Jackson." The audience erupted as Jackson strode onto the stage with a smirk and a casual wave, taking his seat across from Strahan. The interview began smoothly. They laughed about Jackson's reputation for stealing every scene he's in. Strahan joked, "Man, do you ever let anyone else talk on set?" Jackson grinned. "Only if they're quick about it," he fired back, earning laughter from both the crowd and crew. The first few questions were about his new movie, how it blended moral conflict with action, how he prepared for such an emotionally charged role, and how he managed to keep reinventing himself after decades in Hollywood. Jackson was articulate and passionate, giving thoughtful answers that blended insight and humor. Then Strahan leaned in, his tone shifting slightly. "Now Sam," he said, "you've played some strong, fiery characters over the years, guys who don't take any nonsense. Is that energy something you bring from your real life? Like, is it ever hard to switch off that intensity?" At first, Jackson chuckled lightly. "You mean do I yell at people at home?" he teased. But Strahan pressed, smiling in that friendly TV way that often hides a sharper edge. "Well, yeah, kinda. You've got that big presence. Some might say it's a little intimidating sometimes." The laughter faded. Jackson tilted his head, his eyes narrowing slightly as he looked at Strahan. "Intimidating," he repeated, his voice low but steady. "You think I'm intimidating, Mike?" The audience tittered nervously, unsure whether this was still part of the show's playful tone or the start of something real. Strahan shifted in his seat, sensing the tension but trying to smooth it over. No, I mean it in a good way. You've got presence, power. It's a compliment." Jackson leaned back, his expression unreadable. "That's funny," he said after a moment. "When white actors have presence, it's called gravitas. When I do, it's intimidating." The studio fell completely silent. You could almost hear the cameras whirring. Strahan blinked, caught off guard. "Whoa, Sam, that's not what I meant." "I know what you meant," Jackson interrupted, his tone sharpening. "It's what a lot of folks mean when they say the same thing. But see, I'm not here to make people comfortable. I'm here to tell stories." The control room panicked. A producer frantically gestured from behind the camera, mouthing for Strahan to pivot. But the conversation had already veered off script. Strahan forced a chuckle. "Hey man, I think you're reading too deep into it. We're just talking energy here." Jackson's eyes flashed. "No, we're talking perception," he countered. "You wouldn't ask De Niro that question. You wouldn't ask Tom Hanks if he's too intense to hang out with. But when it's me, suddenly it's about attitude. About aggression." A few audience members clapped uncertainly, unsure whether to encourage or stay silent. Strahan, visibly flustered now, tried to recover. "Sam, you know I've got nothing but love for you. It's just..." Jackson leaned forward, his voice calm but cutting. "Love doesn't excuse ignorance, Mike. If you invite me on to talk about my work, let's talk about my work. Don't turn it into a personality quiz." The tension was thick. Strahan attempted to steer the discussion back toward the film, saying, "Let's talk about your character in this movie. He's got a short fuse, right?" Jackson smirked. "You really want to go there?" he said, his tone daring. The audience gasped softly, the energy in the room turning electric. Strahan hesitated, his practiced media smile faltering for the first time that morning. Before he could respond, Jackson stood up. He unclipped his microphone, straightened his jacket, and looked directly into the camera. "I think we're done here," he said simply. "Sam, wait," Strahan began, standing halfway out of his chair. But Jackson just shook his head. "No hard feelings, Mike. But next time, stick to the script." And with that, he walked off the set, leaving Strahan frozen mid-sentence, the audience murmuring in disbelief. The producers immediately cut to commercial, the Good Morning America logo flashing as the cameras faded to black. For a moment, no one moved. Strahan exhaled slowly, running a hand across his face. "We'll be right back," he muttered, his usual cheer nowhere to be found. As the studio lights dimmed and producers swarmed to contain the chaos, one thing became clear: Samuel L. Jackson had just turned an ordinary morning show into a viral cultural flashpoint, one that the world would be talking about before the day was over. The aftermath was immediate and electric. Within minutes of Samuel L. Jackson leaving the Good Morning America set, whispers turned into online wildfire. Studio staff members exchanged stunned looks, and clips of the tense exchange began circulating on social media even before the show's end credits rolled. Viewers captured the raw energy of the moment, the flash of Jackson's glare, Strahan's uneasy smile, the stunned silence that followed. It was the kind of unscripted television that no network plans for but every gossip outlet dreams of. By noon, the internet was ablaze. Hashtags like hashtag Samuel L. Jackson walks off GMA, hashtag Strahan vs Jackson, and hashtag respect the legend began trending globally. Comment sections filled with fiery debates. Some defended Jackson passionately, arguing that he had every right to call out what they saw as a loaded question. Others sided with Strahan, saying he had been misunderstood and that Jackson had turned a harmless comment into unnecessary drama. Memes appeared within hours, one showing Jackson striding off the set with the caption, "When you've had enough of morning TV." Another depicted Strahan awkwardly smiling beside an empty chair. ABC, realizing the magnitude of the situation, released a carefully phrased statement by evening: "Good Morning America values thoughtful and respectful dialogue." The exchange between Samuel L. Jackson and Michael Strahan became unexpectedly intense, and we are working with both parties to address any misunderstandings. The language was neutral, diplomatic, but fans weren't buying it. They wanted accountability, and answers. For the rest of the day, Jackson stayed quiet. Paparazzi caught glimpses of him leaving his New York hotel later that afternoon, walking briskly with sunglasses on, ignoring shouted questions about what had gone down. But that night, as speculation reached fever pitch, Jackson finally broke his silence on X, formerly Twitter. His post was short, sharp, and unmistakably him. Greater than, "Don't invite me to talk about my craft if you want to talk about my temper. I don't do disrespect, keep it professional or keep it moving." Within an hour, the post had over 1 million likes and retweets. His fans rallied behind him, with many prominent actors and directors voicing support. Viola Davis commented, "We stand with Sam. The man's earned his respect, don't question his passion." Meanwhile, Denzel Washington's name started trending as fans recalled a similar incident years earlier where he'd been questioned about his intensity. Michael Strahan, known for his usually calm and affable demeanor, faced growing scrutiny. Some said he'd overstepped, while others sympathized, pointing out that live television leaves no room for carefully measured phrasing. The next morning, Strahan addressed the controversy head-on. Sitting alone at the anchor desk, he looked somber but resolute. "Yesterday's interview with Samuel L. Jackson didn't go the way I hoped," he began. "I've known Sam a long time and have always admired his strength and honesty. My question came out the wrong way, and I take full responsibility for that. I never intended to offend him or anyone watching. The apology was genuine and heartfelt, and it softened some of the backlash, but not all." Jackson didn't respond directly, though sources close to him hinted that he appreciated Strahan's acknowledgement. Still, insiders reported that Jackson had cancelled all future ABC appearances related to his movie's promotion. Entertainment media spun theories endlessly. Some claimed Jackson had been under pressure from the studio to do the GMA appearance and was already frustrated before the interview began. Others suggested the clash was symbolic, a moment that highlighted how even well-meaning hosts can unconsciously perpetuate stereotypes about powerful black men being too intense or angry. Think pieces poured in from major outlets. The Atlantic called the moment a cultural reset, praising Jackson for confronting racial undertones in entertainment journalism. Variety described it as a masterclass in authenticity, while tabloids simply dubbed it Hollywood's most uncomfortable 5 minutes. A week later, Jackson appeared on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. Fallon, treading lightly, asked, "So, Sam, are we okay to talk about interviews?" Jackson smirked, the audience roaring with laughter. "Man, you can ask me whatever you want, as long as you mean what you say," he replied. His response, confident but cool, reignited admiration for his unapologetic nature. Behind the scenes, Strahan and Jackson reportedly spoke privately by phone. While no formal reconciliation was made public, an ABC insider claimed their conversation was respectful, honest, and healing. Still, both men knew the moment would linger, not as a feud, but as a symbol of something larger. In the days that followed, cultural commentators began discussing how black excellence is often framed through a lens of suspicion or emotional control. Jackson's reaction, they argued, wasn't just about one question, it was about decades of coded expectations placed on outspoken black men in public life. Samuel L. Jackson didn't just walk off a TV set that morning. He walked into a national conversation about dignity, perception, and authenticity. His career didn't waver. If anything, it solidified his image as a man who would never shrink himself to make others comfortable. When a journalist later asked if he regretted walking out, Jackson's answer was as crisp as ever: regret? Nah, I said what needed saying. Sometimes the truth don't fit the format. That single line summed up everything: his philosophy, his defiance, and his power. In that one moment, Samuel L. Jackson didn't just make headlines, he made history, once again proving that whether on-screen or off, he plays by his own rules, and always, with purpose.